Being raised with abusive or neglectful parents damages your perception. And by that I mean being able to discern what is true, what is not true, what is my responsibility, and what is not my responsibility or my fault. And being able to discern when I'm in danger and when maybe I'm just being paranoid. It's so common in a family where there's violence or addiction or mental illness or any of those common family stressors that can cause complex PTSD. It's common for parents to tell the kids, no, your dad is not drunk, your mother's not acting crazy, or no one hit anybody just now. You imagine that crashing noise you heard, it was just the television falling off its stand. And you wanted to believe this, but your whole nervous system was like screaming that you were in danger. And it's the kind of combination, blank mind, freaked out body, and like all kids, you wanted to get some adult help to get a read on this situation. Like, what am I feeling? Are things actually okay? Can the neighbors hear what's going on? Is it possible they're calling the cops right now? Am I supposed to just turn this feeling off? And there are 100 ways that this can happen to you, not necessarily with violence or drunkenness, but with any of the weird, crazy, shameful dynamics a family can have. And my point is, if adults lied about the nature of what was going on, saying it was good and normal, when everything in reality was saying, this is not good, it's not normal, well, this scrambles our powers of perception, and we end up teaching ourselves to override our good sense because it feels dangerous. We think it's probably just me, right? If we feel hurt, maybe we're just being oversensitive. And if we feel ashamed, it's probably because we did something. That's how CPTSD mind works when you're a little kid. And so you learn that your perceptions can't be trusted. And over time, you find yourself making these huge, irrational mistakes where the red flags were all over the place. But as you were taught, you ignored the fact that the new guy you're dating is maybe a little bit controlling, or you ignored the vague language a boss used about what you would be paid or when, or you ignored a gut feeling that you shouldn't walk alone to your car at night. Or sometimes we lose our perception around positive things. We feel merely nervous about a new opportunity, but we confuse that with a gut feeling that there's something wrong with it, and we don't show up. Or we offend people by acting suspicious. Or we become afraid to go out anywhere, even out of the house. That's a misperception, and it can get where you think isolation is safety, and where sadness is, nausea, and the feeling of exhaustion you think is hunger, and the feeling of hunger feels like depression. You don't even know what's going on inside yourself. And then come the crossed wires around what to do with your feelings. When I was younger, if I was interested in a guy, I'd act mean to him. And at the hair cutter, instead of asking for what I wanted, I'd turn into, a little just cold little rock right there in the haircutting chair, afraid if I asked for what I wanted, it would come out aggressive. And then I worried that the hair cutter would take it out on my hair. And it's crazy, right? But I was scared of people and how they saw me. And eventually I did reteach myself to perceive reality, which is crucial to having any control in your life. So if you struggle with accurate perception, you might want to hear how I did this. So first, I took stock as best I could of the areas where my thinking was often distorted. And I used to have a really hard time, for example, in a conflict with someone, figuring out what was actually my fault and what was theirs. And this is challenging for everyone, but for people with childhood PTSD, this can be a really big trouble spot. I used to think emotionally normal people were either against me or they wanted to control me, and that only edgy, troubled people were really alive and capable of understanding me. And I know that sounds crazy, or maybe it doesn't to you, but I used to think the truths revealed when people were intoxicated always represented how they really felt, and not the stuff they do and say when they were sober. Like that was the part you couldn't trust. Or I used to be fuzzy about the right amount of information to tell about myself to others. Now, I mean, on YouTube, I've made a career out of TMI. So this may not be the greatest example. But another wrong idea I had was thinking that if I didn't prove myself to everyone and make my abilities known to them, like, you must know, like, I've accomplished things. If I didn't do that, I was afraid I'd be invisible and overlooked. So you'll notice that these problems all involve difficulty recognizing and expressing what is true. And the thing is, if you can recognize and say what's true, the spell of distorted thinking is broken immediately. The solution of staying in the truth is simple, even though it can take years to be able to do it, to see and say the truth. So if you were impacted by trauma in childhood, you may have some similar patterns and struggles with knowing what is true. And the great news is, this is something you can start healing. You can start being in reality, and boy, when you can trust yourself to be in reality, everything in life starts getting better. Your relationships, career, money, daily interactions with people, parenting, the way you solve problems, everything gets better. So it doesn't happen automatically, though. It didn't for me. I work very, very hard to perceive what is true and to be real and to keep my words and actions consistent and truthful. Okay, so what can you do to speed up your healing and sharpen your ability to perceive reality? Here are 3 things. First, stop, at least for now, using mind-altering substances. You might think this is overly severe because, many happy, healthy people have a drink or smoke weed now and then, and you may feel that pot and alcohol provide relief from stress or relief from PTSD symptoms, and symptom relief is a good thing, but hear me out. If you are just a casual drinker or smoker, consider taking a break for a while just so that you can boost your chances of being able to see reality. If you drink or smoke daily, or you use other drugs regularly, your perception is likely to be somewhat compromised from day to day, even when you're sober. And there's a time and a place, but the truth is, it's just really, really hard to make life changes when part of your awareness is kind of softened. So consider taking a break from weed and alcohol while you recover. And if you aren't able to stop on your own and you do want to stop, this is the perfect time to go get help in a 12-step program or a detox facility. I can't say enough good things about the 12-step way of life. I know a lot of people don't like it, but a whole lot more people have had their life saved by it, including me. And among the many benefits, the meetings are free and you'll never be lonely again. It's a community of people who are all helping and supporting each other start living on a new basis that's smart and spiritual and self-respecting and, yes, honest. That's a key principle of recovery. And it's a place where you can start to work out, like, what is that? The stuff you didn't learn at home. So it's a good place to start healing your perception. We can't do this in isolation, so think about that. Also, the second way to heal your perception is to start working my daily practice. A lot of you watching, you have tried it or you do it regularly, but in case you're new to it, this is the twin set of techniques, writing fears and resentments, followed by a really simple, restful meditation that has just been incredibly helpful for me and many, many people here to help get the stress thoughts out. So writing and meditating help make a space for real thinking, and they help heal your mental state so that you can be, less like frenetic and more perceptive. Personally, I need these techniques daily so that I can even handle the truth that comes every day. I want to be in reality, but you got to be strong enough for it sometimes. And you can learn these techniques in a free online course I teach. If you haven't found it, it's always down below. One of the links at the top of the description section is for my free tools page. You can find it there or on the courses page or a link in the description section. I just put it everywhere. So if you're ever in doubt, just go to my website, crappychildhoodfairy.com. You can see where everything is, the quizzes, the free course, the courses you pay for, everything, the blog, the podcast. Finally, if you're brave enough and you really want to get a read on a situation or on your own perceptions and attitudes about something, you can ask other people for help. And I really recommend you choose people that you both like and respect, because you're going to ask for honest feedback, and you don't want to open the door to cruelty or misguided feedback here. So you pick 3 people and ask them if they'll help you to see clearly. And you can explain that you're working on improving your perception of reality and trying to make some positive changes. And you ask them if they'll tell you gently but honestly what they notice about you and your patterns. What do they like about you? Is there a mistake they see you making repeatedly? Is there a blind spot they notice? Is there something you might change in your attitude or actions that, in your friend's opinion, would make a positive difference in your relationships? Now, I just want to say this again. Don't choose people to ask who are critical or who don't get you. Whatever they tell you might not be trustworthy information in that case. And you always can take anything people say with a grain of salt. But getting honest input from friends, it's scary. And I know when I was stuck one time and asked some friends what they saw, they each said pretty much the same thing. And I give them credit. They each went out of their way to tell me the positives that they saw in me. But the negative that they communicated to me was that I was sometimes insensitive to the effect that I had on other people. And they said my words and voice could be harsh, especially when I felt threatened. And they said they had felt at times that I didn't care about them or wasn't hearing them. This was hard to hear, and the part where I didn't care about them was so not true. But I thanked each person, and this is important, I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue with them. If you ask for honest feedback, the thing is, your job is to graciously listen, and if you absolutely have to, you can go and cry your eyes out later. But knowing what the problem is means you can stop worrying about a lot of things that the problem is not. You know, you can stop tripping about that. You're like, okay, that's what it is. The truth doesn't hurt nearly as much as all that speculation and worry and running from it. And anyway, I knew my negative behaviors were left over from my childhood, and this is an explanation, even if it's not an excuse. But we know, right? We know why things are hard for us, and we get to work on them. So I'm the one who pays the worst price for being harsh with people when I'm hurt, and I'm the one who can change that. So I took what my friends shared with me, and I made the job of improving my behavior a top priority in my life. And you can read all the self-help books in the world, but if you really want your life to get better, do your due diligence to find out what the problem really is and undertake seriously, earnestly, with your heart to change it. You can read, you can pray, you can talk to a professional, but there's just no substitute for facing the problem and changing the behavior. And it may not happen overnight. It might take a few years, it might take a lifetime, but just knowing what the problem is will start causing positive changes in you. And the good results you get from that will give you a little boost that you need to keep working on it. Now, when I start feeling stressed in a conversation, I know immediately that I want to restrain what I say a little bit so that I don't add to the trouble by speaking harshly. So that's something I know about myself. It's not self-oppression, it's self-protection. And just that has made a huge difference in my life. It's let me get closer to people, and it's made me easier to be around. And that right there is a freaking miracle. So if you like this topic, I've got a video lined up for you right here, and it is about the #1 thing that could be blocking your healing, and I will see you very soon.